This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, let's see, 7:04, we are calling the Finance Committee meeting to order. So I guess my first thought, all that money, I guess I'm gonna kind of just talk in generalizations for right now. Ed had put together that spreadsheet about moving money over to ARPA. I guess I'm not, personally, I'm not, if you're gonna move one-time expenses over, okay, I can see that, but I don't know that I would move over salaries. Like, you're talking about a Conservation Commission, I think was one of the ones that were kind of moved over. I should open up my other sheets. I guess it's just kind of touchy because you're going to run into the same issue where what if some other big project comes up in a year and you want to use the rest of the ARPA money for that project, but you are committed to a conservation agent, and then you have to find other funding to pay for that person. I mean, salary should really come out of the general fund budget in my.
I was surprised too that this budget that got sent today didn't include any of the other changes. Like, the audit is still at 31,000, which I thought, wasn't that the one we were lowering, or is that the lowered number?
That is a low number.
Oh, it is.
31 is year 2. 36.5 is year 1.
And then, I don't have that in front of me now, but the changes, like, I don't know why, like when we discussed the assessor position and increasing it to 60,000, I didn't think that it was, that we as a PQB anyway specified that it had to be 40 hours for that rate. It was like, that's the rate you need to pay if you're going to get somebody. So then they were like, when they proposed increasing some of the other people, they were tweaking that down because it was 37.5 hours instead of 40 hours. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I don't know. I don't know. I didn't think that's how it was presented to us by the assessors.
No, I think they were, originally they thought maybe, why is this not opening? On the internet, that it should be, they needed someone to fill that spot, so it wasn't about the 40 hours. They wanted to do it without the 40 hours. Because if you're going to do 40 hours, then you probably have to pay even more than 60.
Right, especially if they want some of the certifications or whatever, but regardless, if it's a salaried position, then you do the job, and I don't know. I don't want to see that get changed by a couple thousand. I don't know. I just don't think that was what the intention was.
That wasn't their intention. And moving all those pieces to ARPA to fund potential $53,000 worth of increases to wages, I think you need to do two pieces. I think you need to do the piece where, the range is $20 to $30 for whatever. Say, I'll just use the assessor for an example. I guess they want 16 anyway. But you kind of determine if the wages are within that range, whatever range you pick, and then the next year when you go to do the budget, you make a plan to say, okay, we're going to increase these people's hours. Because and I think I asked this question and you sort of alluded to it at the meeting, is why are we increasing these to 36? To equal to the assessor so that no one feels bad that the assessor has that many hours and everyone else doesn't? Because from where I'm standing, the reason work isn't getting done is because Jen's shorthanded and Bradley's new. So if they're not doing things in a timely fashion, it's because they don't have the people, or they don't understand the position enough because they haven't been in it long enough to be able to know what they need to do when they need to do it. So increasing the hours to give them more hours to do work in your, Jen's still short-staffed, so.
Well, I think Jen's argument was that the work that needs to be done, she can't pass off to another employee, she has to do it herself. And she can't currently do the workload within the 31 hours.
So
I'm
it's
not saying I agree,
yeah,
I
I know.
disagree with it, but
And it's interesting because she proposed that 2 years ago in the budget and it was shot down. To say, okay, I'm gonna work on Fridays, that was before they hired Tracy, when they moved Christy over, and she said, well, I'm gonna cut that position down and I'll work Fridays and you can, and it was no-go. But now it's come up again, and so, I'm not saying she should or she shouldn't do it, I'm just
Right.
saying it's just kind of, I don't know. And again, you had to start somewhere with that spreadsheet.
I'm trying to find.
And last year, they decided to do, or 2 years ago, whatever year it was, the lowest paid admin assistants, but then they didn't do anything else. You should have kept going, like, okay, what's next? Like, how do we get these things to move up the ladder and look at it and stuff, but instead, you're trying to get something done, but we're kind of doing it at the last minute.
I mean, I can appreciate the time that was spent in trying to up the wages, because I know that it is a big deal. It's a big deal in hiring and retaining people and morale and like, I just don't want to see us, I guess, get into a situation by, I mean, I know the conservation agent is needed, but we need to take care of our employees. So is it needed at the expense of, having the position, funding it through ARPA, and then not being able to fund it and being strapped and, I don't know, I just, for some reason, I can't find the changes that, I thought I saved it. What was it called that they?
Oh, Ed's,
Yeah.
So, I had Bradley send me the end of 21 stuff. And I think Ed put that on part of his worksheet where the computers, the technology equipment, he was looking for however much money. Oh, he already reduced it by what's in capital, because that money was already appropriated to buy computers and whatnot. So just used what's already there. So he already has that in here. Technology services. So this new sheet doesn't have, this just has a 2% COLA in here. It doesn't have those proposed changes.
Reductions, alternative funding sources, that's what I'm looking at.
Is it possible one of the items that was on the ARPA funding piece was the Sharps program. Does the COA have grants that could cover the Sharps program? Because most of the seniors are the ones who use the Sharps program. It's not a ton of money. I don't know what she uses her state formula grant for, but, does she have some other kind of grant that she could do for some of that?
But the reverse 911 system, that's a every year thing.
Every year thing, yeah.
The open space committee expenses, $500. That's an every year thing.
Yeah, it's not even one time, it's every year. So you pay for it for 2 years and then you're back to square one when you're looking for, the reverse 911, that might get to be $4,500. So in 2 years, you're looking at $4,500. Meanwhile, you've given everybody a 2% raise, which is warranted. Then you adjust the salary scale and you add more hours. That's going to eat up more of the budget in 2 more years because you can add 2% on top of that potentially over the next couple years. And then where are you going to find the $4,500 from? That's one of those ones where, it's every year. It's probably a better solution than putting salaries or wages in there.
Maybe these are the easiest ones to pull out and that's why they did it this way, as far as. But now we have to come up with how much more because of the vocational?
It says $58,000 on the.
Yeah. I thought we were working with 50. I'm thinking he took out the $5,500 for the ballistic vest.
Yes, that's in the alternative.
Right, but that should be gone altogether. Because Ian's paying for it all this year, in this year's budget.
But they get them every year, I thought.
They have a 10-year life cycle. So that's what I asked, is if you do, the bulk you have to do right now, he won't have to purchase any more vests, I think, 3 years out, until the next group comes up. Unless he hires somebody.
The message board, radar sign things, I can see that coming out of ARPA. I don't know. It's just hard to know, we can say everything's a guesstimate. We can say that our growth is going to increase and so it's going to cover this in a year or two, but we don't know what our school costs are going to be in a year or two either. So it's hard to make these decisions based on what you're projecting is going to happen when you don't know if that's what's going to happen or not.
So I didn't watch them. I watched pieces of the meeting, not the whole thing. What did you guys?
Were you at the meeting?
I was not there last week. Because remember they said we didn't have to come on the 26th? Because we were supposed to meet, but because they did.
Oh, I didn't watch it either.
I watched pieces of it, and I guess there's the piece that I watch. I guess we need to explain how septic betterments work because no one seems to understand it. And Jerry maybe should have came to the meeting, but.
Oh, what was the discussion about that?
So she wants to do a borrowing from Clean Water Trust, initiate the borrowing, and then she would draw down the money, it was like $50,000 at a time, loan it out.
We've already done that.
Yeah, but this is another.
She wants to replenish.
They want to replenish another.
Are they sure that it's all been spent and all drawn down?
That was one of the
Yeah,
questions.
Because the last I knew,
Before I left, we drew down part of it, and they only did. She didn't have any more, so they closed the loan out at $150,000.
but I don't know if it was it really closed?
That's a good question.
Because I thought that they keep it open until,
But I think we got a loan. I think we got a debt schedule for that. And they don't close it out and give you a debt schedule till you're done. But Chris Fowles made a comment about, oh, can't we get grant money for this? I'm like, well, it's not like the town is taking on the loan, because the loan gets paid back when they lent it out to people. So it's not gonna cost the town any money. So I think there's a little misconception as they were like, we don't wanna take out any more money, we don't wanna have any more payments.
Right.
I'm like, but that's not how that works.
Yeah,
So-
I think the only way it could potentially harm the town is you have it sitting out there as a debt authorization.
But it's through,
Yeah, but it still sits on your, you can only borrow X, and I have no idea how much is in that window before we hit the ceiling on what we can borrow.
I don't think we're near that.
No, and that sits in a special revenue fund, so it's not gonna affect the general fund and,
Right.
in any manner, so anyway.
So
There is work involved in doing it if there's not enough people to utilize it.
Yeah.
It's really a benefit to the town and to the taxpayers, and we've been charging 5% interest. So with the interest rates as low as they are, someone can get a home equity loan for less than 5% interest, which is a better way to pay for it, if, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And the interest that we've collected, you can, which I don't have an expense report, I don't know how much is in there, you can re-loan that money out, the
Right,
interest amount.
And then there was the original 100,000 that almost every town got.
Yeah,
That was basically, that was given. That wasn't a payback. And that money, once it was paid back, could be reloaned. So I know that Dave, when he was here, and I'm sure that it should have been kept separate. It wasn't in the same pot. Or maybe it went in with the interest money to be reloaned, but there
Yeah,
was
I
that
have to look.
100,000 in there originally.
Yeah. But, yeah,
So the people that it benefits are the people that either don't qualify because they don't have good enough credit or enough equity in their house to get another loan for a less interest rate,
but anyway, I guess I walked that piece. But I guess my point is, did you guys talk any more about the salary scale and the table and
No.
any of that?
no, that's all tomorrow, should be tomorrow night.
Oh, okay, so you guys didn't do that last week? All right,
No,
that was
the only other thing we
my
talked
original
about there
question.
was because there were two items that came in late. That was one of them from Jerry, and the other one was from John Workman, to put two paid full-time staff members on.
I think on the articles are on is that,
And I think that one is teed up for 6:30 tomorrow night for you guys to weigh in on. If assuming John comes with all his documents, I believe. I know we didn't do anything with it.
Did you do any of the other articles for town
No, we
meeting?
didn't, no, because there wasn't anything for us to look at. So I think that's the meeting where we pushed the town meeting out. It's gonna be,
I'm glad you changed the meeting and it's not on the first week because that's my Cape conference, so I wouldn't have been here, so.
for June? It is June's.
it's June 7th.
Oh, I thought it was the 14th.
We were going to, but Norris is not available. So we're back to the 7th. If you set up a Zoom, you vote your proxies.
I don't know. It starts early Wednesday morning. I don't really want to have to drive to the Cape on Wednesday morning.
I don't blame you.
I did that once and it sucked.
And I might get to go to the Cape next year because I will have money in my budget to go over here. I never had any money to do anything.
Oh, man, that kind of stinks. Well, I guess I won't have to worry about making a fool out of myself at town meeting.
So according to what Bradley resent, it says it's $58,458.63. For column the regular budget, and then the wish list is 200 and,
What number, what line is that?
it's the green,
I know, but what
Oh.
line down?
244 is where the variance is. And then if you,
Oh,
yeah. So that 58. So-
and that's with the updated vocational number?
That's what his email said, so. But that doesn't include any of the additional increases to wages.
Well, that other,
That's 2%.
Right. And it doesn't include movement of anything to potential ARPA.
so that totaled like around 50,000. What they had proposed. 50,198 is what the target was the last time we met to save. So how can, if with the vocational number going up that much, how come we're still only off 55,000 when we were off 51,000 before?
Shouldn't you be off 100 and something? So I guess the other question the East Street Bridge debt isn't on here.
It is.
Or they have it in a separate, different
Yeah,
section?
it's the last line. It's white right now. There's a light blue bar on the other side. It's 217.
I have the interest at 32,000.
Oh, no, you're right.
There's
I'm
no
looking
debt
at the
there.
total. I'm looking at the total.
There's no debt there.
Mm.
Do you know, did we borrow that money yet?
I don't know.
Oh. So
I'm guessing it might have been a short-term borrow, but there's still going to be interest.
Yeah, there's $32,000 in interest.
So I'm guessing that they were waiting until it was finalized before they did the permanent financing, but I could be wrong.
So then my question would be, on the revenue page, is the debt exclusion for the East Street Bridge included on the revenue piece? Which I thought it was, and that's why I was kind of wondering why that was there.
Yeah, so the vocational line item went up $60,602.
Well, oh, there it is.
Because we had, we were negative 2,400. And I just did a comparison between the sheet they gave us last time and this one. That's the only line that changed, line 123.
Mm-hmm. And it went up how much?
$60,602.
But if that one line went up 60,000, how can the variance?
Because we were under budget by $2,400.
Oh.
Now, the note in there says might be low, this is the old note, might be low, add another student allocation.
Right, because I don't know how many will go.
cross that bridge when it happens and use free cash.
I guess I will say, so my daughter's a freshman. She had like a lot of kids in her class, her grade, go to Smithville. My son's in 8th grade, and they don't have half as many as the kids that went last year. But those kids that are freshmen are still going there,
Right.
you know, so.
Right, but where you really have to look and see is how many seniors are graduating and how many new 9th graders are going in.
But the jump was last year when all those like 45, 50 kids actually went. So, Northampton's 5th vocational went 18,679 to 19,622. $943. 5% increase. Oh, that one, they went 569. So I'm just trying to wrap my brain. So last time when we met, the budget was under by $2,400.
Yep,
That didn't include, it only included 2% raises,
yep.
correct? And then it didn't include anything moved to ARPA, because moving to ARPA would be it would balance out giving people extra hours and money and whatever else. Okay, so those two match together. All right, I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
But
So I thought John blank on his name, I thought the veteran agent said that he wasn't going to need the extra $5,000.
right, so this is what I'm trying to figure out here with all these sheets. So the reductions / alternative funding sources that was sent to us by Bradley on the 19th, I think. That was a total of around 50,000. And that's where they were gonna lower the copier expense, the treasurer collector wages, the principal assessor by $805, the veterans benefits by $5,000. So that's in this adjustment reduction page. And that's where the things going to ARPA, the sharps, the mosquito control, the OPEB study, the bulletproof vests, the assessor maps. So those things are already in the budget in the green column that we were just looking at. And if they took all those things out, then it would save us what they said the target of $50,198 was to do those changes in hours and salaries. But now, with the school thing, we need another 60,000, right?
Right.
So he said that on the 19th, you thought? I just can't find it.
Yeah, because it was in my, because I couldn't find it at first either, but it's in my email.
Yeah.
And it wasn't from Ed, it was from Bradley. I thought it was on the 19th. He sent 4 documents. Yeah, 421.
On 421?
Yeah, it said updated budget files.
Oh, all right.
Did you get it?
I got it. Yeah, I just, for some reason, I was like, where did I put it? Again, I thought I saved it too, but
But then there's so many different ones going around, you
I
know, there's so
know.
many different ones that it's hard to.
Yeah, so now, like Donna said, even if you move this stuff over to ARPA, you're still looking for,
Then you're still looking to fund the changes that they want to do, because really now all these things are gonna fund just to balance the
just to
budget
balance the
again.
budget, correct? Yep. You know, and I'm not saying people don't need more hours to do their jobs, but I guess I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around reducing the hours in the treasurer collector and the money for the clerk, so Jen has more money and more hours, when we can't find someone to come in. We can't find someone to come in at the rate of pay it is for the 30 hours a week, or 31 hours a week, or whatever. And I guess there's also another, if you can't pass stuff off to your assistant treasurer collector, that's what their job is. And so I think you should be able to pass some of that on to them. I mean, if you can't, then maybe there needs to be some more training for that, you know, be able to enter receipts. But you can't pass it on and train that person to do the stuff that you would normally do, like just entering receipts, for instance. If you have the other person only here, you know, a couple hours a day, because they get a ton of mail.
I mean, I know that I used to do the receipts and the reconciliations, although the auditors, I mean, in most towns, I think the same person doesn't do both. Like now, I generally don't enter the receipts, but I do the reconciliations. You know, like, it just depends on the town and how it's set up. But I mean, I agree that, you know, I think it's hard. I think it's a struggle between feeling like you don't have confidence in delegating. Touched my eye because I'm tired.
Well, the other thing, is it worth looking at the, all the items that you believe you've identified that impacted free cash would actually increase the free cash certification? You didn't spot one that went the other way.
No.
So what about looking at where those came from? Because that's another way to see which line items are over budgeted. It's right, because you get the free cash because you either collected more revenue than you anticipated, which you really don't want to touch those, but if you had surplus expense lines that weren't fully spent.
Yeah, so the one that really struck me was the fact that the money for the E911 grant wasn't reclassed over to the grant. But you can't not budget for it in the general fund because you don't know how much you're gonna get. Pretty much everyone gets money every year, but if you don't fund it, you have to show that you paid for it first,
Yeah.
and then you get reimbursed. And it's not really, you can't really underfund your general fund budget for it, because you have to show that, yeah, there's money
Right.
there to pay for it. I mean, and the other pieces were, it wasn't that there was something in the general fund that didn't get spent, but that piece didn't get, it did get spent, but you could move it over.
Right.
So that was that. I didn't really look through the rest to see, you know, what made that up.
Yeah, because I mean, the other thing, when we were looking at revenue numbers, right, we were going off of estimated numbers. You know, maybe now that they have the real numbers because of the free cash, they could, does that show a different trend line?
Well, you got the actuals for 21, but you're gonna be looking at, you need to actuals for 22.
Right. Well, I mean,
And-
but he's talking about what created the free cash for 21 that we just got
Yeah,
certified.
yeah. I
But
see what you're
still, that
saying, yeah.
doesn't, we don't know,
I mean, right off just looking at this, building permits was huge. Interest and penalties was huge. You know, tax liens redeemed isn't something you budget for, but that will dump into your free cash.
Right.
And those are fairly big numbers. But then on the offset is, you know, your tax exemptions for blind, and those other ones were way less than what the cherry sheet said you were gonna get. Which my guess is someone, I don't know, it just seemed like someone didn't submit something in the assessors, because we should have gotten that
we
money.
usually get a lump sum.
Yep. And I think that happened once before, it didn't get
Yes.
submitted on time, and we got it the next year.
But if it didn't get submitted at all, then,
Yeah. You know, and I look at this revenue report too, and you probably could put this, well, I guess you could, I don't know if you could really put it in your budget, but your FRTA indirect costs, no one did any of those journal entries, so that money that you charged the grant for the indirect costs didn't come back to the general fund, because those journal entries didn't get done, which is stuff that gets dumped into your free cash. That's a nice shirt. You know, so it's not a lot of money, but it's probably $2,500 a year. I mean, again, it's not huge, but
Yeah.
but you can't really use that to budget. But you could potentially, I don't know what 22's is gonna look like in terms of building permits. You could put more money in there, because
it looked like the building permits were pretty high
we're
already.
pretty high
from
already.
The one, from what we saw, the last report I saw.
What is it, I mean,
No.
so, if you,
So we
how
can't
difficult is
know.
it to get the revenue up? I don't mean up. How difficult is it to move from January 15th anywhere closer to today's date on revenue packets? That either they're sitting in the town accountant's office and not being posted, or they haven't made it there yet. Because once they're entered, in
I mean, it's
Treasury,
not-
they sit there in suspense, right? They won't show on a report.
No, not until they get posted. The
Right,
accountant posts them.
but that's the quick part. The time-consuming part is entering them. But that's why I had offered to help do some entry, but really, it seems like someone else, if they had time, someone else in the office could enter them, because then Bradley is checking them. So if something got entered to a wrong, you know, real estate year or something, I mean, you use the numbers that are on the revenue report to code the entries, and most of them are repetitive, you know, entering the tax revenue. So if there was a misentry, Bradley could correct it
Right.
at that point, you know, but at least they'd be in. He could just know to maybe look it over more closely than if someone else was doing some of the entering. And then you balance the packet before you close it, the person that's doing the entering, so you know if you entered everything and if it balanced to your deposit, you know.
The other thing, weights and measures, didn't come back to the general fund either. Which is all money that gets dumped into free cash. Like I said, it's not a ton of money, but when you're trying to find some money here, you know, because otherwise that can get done in 22, but yeah, the receipts, and even, yeah, because I would think that's one thing that Bradley wouldn't, if he's checking the receipts, then he gets an idea of the account numbers and what goes into what, you know, if you're checking against from what the Jen put in to what is on the turnover sheets. And most of the time, it's right unless you're entering real estate and all of a sudden you have a motor vehicle in between and you forget to change the number because you're just
Right.
keying it as you go along.
You know, real estate is 120, motor vehicle is 150, and then you just add the year on the
As you see.
extension, you know,
Yeah.
so it's,
And even if you posted motor vehicle to 18 and it should have been 20, it's gonna roll up
You
in
still have
motor
no rate
vehicle in
account.
here, yeah.
yeah, it's
a
just
new
not
balance
being
in
applied to the
years.
right commitment year or
Yeah,
whatever. but-
yeah, but it still rolls up into the right spot. But I don't know if you can get that much more revenue estimates. Like I said, if you know how much building permits,
Well, I mean, like building permits, that's an online system. They pull the permits online now. I mean, so, at least when I always did it, that went into a separate bank account. It didn't get mixed in with the general fund. You know, that money, so there's gotta be a bank, I mean, you could quickly bank reconcile that. Did they set that up after you left? But,
I mean, they pay for it online?
yeah, when you submit, when you pull your building permits and all that, it tells you what the cost is, and you click it, you pay it just like.
I mean, we have that in
licenses.
Southampton, but we didn't have that here when I was here.
Oh, all right.
But you can, I mean, if it's like a view permit thing like what we have, then you should be able to just run a report from July to now in that system and
What's
see
there,
what's been
right.
collected. And you should be able to do it for building, electrical, plumbing.
even if you just took what's in the folder in the accounts office and just added it up pretty quick. I know we're here.
It's the ghost.
Yeah, Joyce used to think this place was haunted all the time. She was so funny. But I guess I'm not too opposed to taking items, expenditures out of ARPA, but I'm really hesitant about doing the wages.
Well, and we have no idea going into, or at least I don't, into tomorrow's meeting, what's going to be proposed to come up with this other 60,000. You know what I mean? Presumably, it's not going to be these same changes because that was specific to fund the wages.
Yeah.
And then, the thing is, you move those items over, but you haven't really cut, I say, you haven't really cut anything. I don't know how else to,
Is there anything to cut?
you know, I mean,
I think the stance could be taken that if you're gonna adjust hourly rates, that's one thing, but for this year, don't look to increase any hours.
that's my perspective, because it's too
reposition.
much at one time. You just say, okay, are they within that range of those hourly rates, whatever that may be? And I would think the people that are new would be, but to actually increase those hours to give people $10,000 raises, I know they're working more hours, but I think it's too big of a pill to swallow. I think you need to do it in pieces.
I mean, really though, all right, so if we lowered the revenue for the ambulance because we keep taking money out of there as fast as it gets put in.
We don't know how much is in there.
And so normally we would have been taking 100,000
Plus the 68.
the 68 for the debt service. Now it's only at 100. If we got another 68 or 60 from the ambulance, like if that money was in there and we could do that, that would balance the budget.
Yeah.
That one thing.
So do you make the argument that you cut the EMT wage line by 60,000, build up your receipts? And then we'll go to special town meeting.
I guess, do we
It's
know
just
how
that
much is in there now?
We don't.
Well, if revenue was up to speed, we would, but.
Right, we don't know.
But there's another one that we should, because that's an oddball that comes, I would think some of these things could be answered. even if not to the penny, like you suggested with the building permits, if they have the paper copy just waiting for the stuff to come through, what does that look like? For the number?
I think the pieces that would be tough, and that could equal probably somewhere around $60,000, is when you do the bank reconciliations, there's those automatic deposits that come to us. And sometimes,
But we get notified of them too, like the slip, well, it used to come in the mail, like they'd send us
Yeah.
a deposit slip or whatever, but you can look all that up online.
Yeah.
It was a separate Unibank account that all the ambulance receipts went into.
yeah, but they didn't get posted until she did the bank recs so,
Right, because it was just easier to,
yeah, do that all at one time, so,
Right,
but you
so is it
could.
possible to take that one particular bank account, if that's all that's going in there, is just ambulance receipts, and do that reconciliation forward?
And then you have to make sure that whatever was voted at town meeting was posted.
Yeah.
right.
Because I'm wondering, I'm looking at this ambulance receivables.
And we don't know, like the debt service. So I'm thinking, I'm going back to like free cash and one-time expenses. Other than the ambulance. I know the dump truck is new. Police fire vehicles, 30,000. Like how many more years is that? If this was the last year, and we could,
I don't think anything's falling off next year. Well, I have that.
And like the ambulance, this should be the last year for the ambulance, I believe.
23?
Yeah, because it was for 5 years.
I did that borrowing, I think.
Yeah. So is this really yeah, because you,
Because maybe that's why he was talking about getting another one.
18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
It's 4 years now, so.
23. So 23 would be, because I don't know, in 18, if we had to pay for on 19, yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah, like, is there, like, this new cruiser?
And when does the Larrabee renovation end?
2035?
Oh, is
It was
it?
2011. And it was 30 years, I
Oh.
think.
Oh.
I can unlock the door, I can find the folder that's in the desk and get it all out. Yeah, but like Donna said, are there some of these on here that, like this HVAC?
There's two different police and fire vehicle ones on here. One's for 24,000, one's for 30,000. Plus the new cruiser is 19,000.
Are those doubled up?
I think I don't know.
Because the fire department bought the chief's vehicle.
They did? The association?
No, through a debt exclusion.
Oh,
And the pumper tanker, maybe? No, the pumper tanker,
I think that got paid off.
that got paid off. The brush truck got paid off because they appropriated all that money just for the brush truck. So there's only two police and fire, 24 and 19.
How about the North School repairs? Oh, that's a debt exclusion though. Never mind.
But the HVAC upgrade for Hampshire was like $55,000 maybe?
I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
if any of these was gonna be the last year, and we could just pay that out of free cash instead.
Well,
Just like when we need a new cruiser or something, like if we can just take the 50,000
out of free
and
cash,
pay
just do
for it
it.
out of free cash instead of financing it for
Yeah.
3 or 5 years.
I think those are, yeah. the dump truck is new, and then the other dump truck is new.
Is there 2 dump trucks on here? Oh,
Yeah, well, one is a dump truck, was a big truck, like a big, and the other one was the new red truck, I think. That's 140.
Oh,
Because the other the big dump truck was 250,000 bucks or whatever it was, something like that. Just going through here line by line here. And I'm trying to remember the explanation of the technology services going from 11.5 to 15.6. I don't remember what he said he needed that for. Because we pay an awful lot of money for the website to be updated, by the way.
What, I don't know if it's that line item, but part of it is just to get rid of that and go with the new.
Oh, okay, so that's included in there. All right, that, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, there's not like fat in here. There's not a lot of. But I don't, again, I'm gonna go back to, I don't think you can add make sure the wages are correct in the, whatever wage scale you use, and give them extra hours. I don't think there's just not enough. I think you have to do it in 2 pieces. So this would beg the question too. So you have an independent audit. 31 is for, well, that's going to be 22
Yeah,
audit.
this year's 36, right?
This year's 36.
And we have what, 25?
21.5.
So we have to find 15,000, give or take, in the existing.
And so are you going to have the same people close the books that you did last year, this year?
Well, I think the intent is tomorrow night to have identified a source of existing line items for both finance and select board to authorize to transfer funds. And then have Melanson come in. And do the 1 year with the option to do.
Oh, transfer of funds for that, but I'm just saying, who's going to close the books for 21? So they can do an audit for 21. Because you'll need money for that.
Unless we do it in-house. Right, you couldn't,
So
traditionally, that's what would happen. It might be too new.
when I look at, you didn't,
I couldn't find the debt. I was looking for.
well, when you look at the interest amounts, that's
Yeah.
what makes me think that some of these might be the last year, because interest police fire vehicles, line 231, is only $480. I mean, generally, the interest isn't that low unless it's the last year. You know what I mean? I could be wrong, but I don't know.
Yeah,
if
because
there's-
all of those are like half of
Yeah.
what they were last year.
Is there a way to get that? Maybe you can get it, because I probably
Yeah, I
can't.
was just thinking, I mean, shouldn't that be on the gateway? Would that be
If it's a
right?
debt
The-
exclusion, it will
The
be,
treasurer's report? that shows the debt and when it's maturing?
It should be on the SOI, but I don't know if it will give you what the date is, but it'll tell you how much is left.
Yeah, it will tell you what was paid off and what was left.
I just logged it. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, the statement of indebtedness will
Yeah.
give you that.
While he's looking that up, we had the Council on Aging in South Hadley did a handbag bingo. They're designer handbags like Coach and Michael Kors, and they've done this before in the fire department. Some of the chief and a few of the guys come and they model, you know, honest to God, there was like 300 women there playing this bingo. Tables of 9, they had a bar, it was wild.
Wow.
It lasted for 3 hours. But I was thinking, it's too bad our Council on Aging couldn't go and see how it's set up and run, because it took a while, I'm sure, to get that many people, but they made some decent money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they get the handbags at the outlets. You know, they're brand new
Yeah,
and nice,
they
but they're
did,
not.
the school did one in Westfield.
Oh, really?
Yep. It's not like we're not moving around. Do you have access to that?
Yeah, but it's not updated, because,
It's
well,
not?
for 22. it's
Oh, because it
very
would have
numbers.
just, they wouldn't have,
Well, but do you have the 21s?
Yeah, they're in there.
oh, but,
No,
yeah.
no, you have to look at the statement of indebtedness. Is that what this is?
That's
That-
part 10, the debt.
No, go to, oh, God, it's cracking. Here's the- I don't think it's under Schedule A.
No. It should be separate, it should be under the balance sheet checklist.
I wonder if you don't have access to that, right?
No, he doesn't. Yeah, you have to have combined balance sheet and so you don't have that up here.
Yeah, usually under tax rate, I thought it said.
This will tell you what the schedule, this is what the debt exclusions are, but there should be a
The
tab up here
statement
that,
of indebtedness would have,
it would say closing schedules for,
yeah.
you don't have it on you don't have access to that piece.
Yeah.
Right, well, I'll just shoot Jen an email and ask her to,
Send
in the
it.
morning, send it to the 2 committees.
All right.
Tell ya. Some days I can't work computers to save my life. Oh, goodness. Oh, I wish I had my, I have 20s when I did 20s books, but I don't have my stick, which isn't. I have 20s. Yeah, those weren't. Those weren't on here. Because we did them in the August or July 20. It was fiscal year 21, so they're not on this debt schedule for 20 at the end of FY 20. Water, yeah, so those trucks and stuff aren't on at the end of FY 20 because we probably did it for that 21 fiscal year, so it's gonna be on 21s. So they're not, I don't have them on this one. So I guess that would be one question. I'm gonna write this down.
Yeah, I CC'd you on that, email to Jen.
Yeah, so any debt, can we pay out of free cash, right? Just get it done with already. If
Right.
it's like 50 grand, just take it out.
Right.
And just
I mean,
do
that
it.
would be an easy, we could justify it as being one time, it's not salaries, and it would be an easy way to get it in line.
Yeah, so if you did that, then you have whatever, 50 grand, 30 grand
Right.
right off the top from the budget, plus whatever interest.
And what's the breakdown again for, it's 10% goes to OPEB, 20 like to capital stabilization?
30 and 35. I think 35 goes to capital and 30 goes to operating.
But there would still be 50, there would still be enough left in free cash to cover this outside of, yeah.
Yeah, if they still stick with that same,
Well, it's part of the policy.
Yeah,
I mean,
they'd have to
they'd have
change
to
the
change the
policy.
policy, right.
yeah.
Well, I don't think we're really gonna
No, I just wanted
come up
you
with
and I
that
to
more
kind of
tonight.
have
No,
a
I think
conversation of,
yes. Well, we kind of have a little bit more of a game plan going into tomorrow's meeting now.
and I think we're on the same page,
Yeah.
you know?
Hopefully we can offer our input.
I will fight for it.
If I get home early, I'll bake some cookies. Probably not, but I think that's right. I said I'm not gonna get home till 6.
Yep. I should delete all those, or do something with all those extra files, because I'm like, I look at them like, okay, which one is which?
I know. That's why I was saving them by date, but
Oh, this is what I wanted. Yeah, so at the end of 21, there was 184,575.39 in ambulance. Assuming they took the 100 out, because there's that was receipted. And then 10 probably, and this is 68,065, so that, okay, so
Oh.
21 they receipted those, correct?
I'm just looking at the select board packet. So there's a temporary PCF for the town clerks, or the treasurer collector's office?
I think that's the one that we looked at.
I have it in my bag and we didn't sign it.
Right.
I didn't want to sign it.
Did you
Because
change in the hours?
if you're gonna change the stuff for the budget, I'm not gonna sign a PC or PRF so that you can hire somebody
Yeah.
for 30 hours when you're gonna change it.
So those are the known items for the committee that were outstanding. Because Judy doesn't know where that document sits, she just knows it's out there, you know.
And I think it's not a lot of money, but there's $1,170.57 in sale of real estate from FY '21. Now, FY '22, I think we put more money into that account. You can appropriate that money as a funding source for something.
And it's $117 now? Or is
It's
it on that report?
it's 1,170.
Gotcha.
And I think there was like $3,400 in revenue from '22. So you can appropriate that for something. You know, like if you're like, okay, we're gonna pay for the mosquito out of this, you know, you're gonna appropriate that to pay for the mosquito or the sharps or the E911, if you have, not E911, the emergency 911. So you're able to do that. Again, it's not a ton of money, but you can do that.
What are all these numbers next to these? Four, 5, 7, 32. What do these numbers mean?
Oh, that's the page in the packet when he sends out the 100-page document. So we just want to go straight to that.
Oh, I see.
So I sent a separate one of the ambulance receipts and I copied the three chiefs. Meaning you, Chris, and Ed.
Oh,
And we'll see. Just ask her. And I know there's a time commitment, so she might not be able to get it all.
you mean Jen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Chris, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's coming from CPA, okay. Yeah, so this Norris School HVAC was $55,450. Now, do we borrow that money to pay for that? And is that part of the debt where we are paying like 14 grand? Like, we can just pay the whole rest of that thing off.
Right, but it's only gonna, I mean, we could, but I think we need to look at paying, even taking the money from free cash to put into the budget to pay this year's debt service. You know what I mean, as far as it affecting the budget lines?
Yeah.
I mean, I agree that if we have the money, we can just pay it
No,
off.
but I wasn't sure, I guess my point was, I wonder if that's one of the ones that's towards the end of the
Right.
term.
Or we could take the money, I mean, if we can, we take money out of free cash to pay those items, those debt service items in this year's budget, knowing that if there is 1 year left, after free cash is certified next year, we can try to do the same, and then it will be paid off. And if we do it before the end of the year, like if it's certified by the special town meeting, then she knows she doesn't have to borrow for, you know what I mean? Because the borrowing's once a year, it's probably all in one thing.
Yeah, so if you could even, I mean, if you, without draining the ambulance, even if you get another 30,000 bucks. You know, to
Apply towards the wages.
apply towards the wages and the expenditures, yeah.
Yeah, and then Mike, so June 30th, this is gonna be afterwards, but June 30th comes and goes, we're on July 1st. Payroll's done, just for sake of argument. Whatever's left in those EMT wages, line item, shouldn't be transferred amongst all those other line items, that should go back to ambulance receipts.
Yes and no. If you've only appropriated 100 and they spent 120, then that's it.
Oh, okay, so we put 100 and...
You put 100,
125,
yeah, and they spend 200,
Then,
then nothing. If
Okay.
you spend less than whatever you appropriated over, it has to go back to those receipts, yeah.
okay,
But usually it's only 100 and he has 200 and some odd thousand bucks in the wages. And in my past history, it's never been where they've spent way under
right.
the 100, because they spend 40 in just expenses alone.
Mhm.
So. You know, or do you, so it's got $91,000 in a stabilization for the ambulance. In previous years, we were putting $25,000 in there to buy another ambulance at some point. But do you, and I don't think it's been done in a couple years, but do you take the 68,000 bucks out of there to pay for the ambulance, do the 100 out of the receipts for the regular budget, and then once the receipts, you know, get received, you know, whenever they get caught up, then you take that money and you
That's the
put it back to the stabilization.
I don't know if there is anything in the ambulance stabilization.
Yeah, there's $91,000 in there.
There is?
As of,
This was at the end of 6/30. So the only thing that's gonna be in there is interest for right now, but, because we hadn't put money in there the past couple of years.
oh,
But it was
okay.
25,000 bucks for like 3 or 4 years, plus whatever interest it's earned.
So we never took that, they never took that out to use toward the new ambulance?
No, I think because he was hoping that he could keep putting money in there so that
Yeah.
when when you had to buy another new ambulance, you wouldn't have to borrow as much money,
Right.
you know, so.
It seems like we have some options potentially without nitpicking each and every line item and spending hours going over it with a fine tooth comb.
I mean,
Yeah.
even if you took $35,000 out of the ACE ambulance stabilization, and maybe not the whole 68, you know what I mean? If you took something
Yeah.
out of there, it still leaves you with some enough to keep building it back up again.
Right.
Then that goes towards the general fund, and you got more
Mm-hmm.
more money, so.
well, let's ask them.
All right. All right, I'm burnt. don't know about you, but tax bills were due today and we were slammed all day, so I'm exhausted.
I was in early trying to, Council on Aging came and wanted to redo their whole budget. So I was like, okay. And they wanted to put together the presentation differently and have a table of contents and everything, which I'm like, I'm not really great with Word, but I'll try and figure it out. Just figuring out what to present to them.
I was out working in the yard and a couple of those mayflies were out and they got me.
All right, so we have some ideas and some thoughts on tomorrow night's select board meeting. Can have these discussions with them, all those pieces, and hopefully we can, again, like Donna said, not nitpick, $10 here, $20 here, $100 here,
I'd like to bring closure to it.
Yeah.
I think so, because then I think you need to say, this is what we think the final is going to be, put it all together, and then just look at it again and be like, okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's because you have a little bit of time now to be able to do that. And if something drastic changes in 2 weeks or a week, you have time to change it and figure out, if you need more money, if something comes up or whatever, so. So 8:21, and I should make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Only two of us.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.